Hello everyone, it is Game here back in the YouTube video, and today I'm going to talk about the top 10 cards in Clash Royale. Just before this video starts, I want to say two things. One, these are all opinions generated by me, and two, tell me your favorite card in the comments down below, and let's get on right with number 10. Coming in at number 10, we have the Balloon. So this might be a surprise to you guys, but I think the Balloon does deserve this number 10 on this list. So I'll tell you a couple reasons why. Well, the first is the Balloon works well in many decks. It pairs well with the Lava Hound, the Giant, the Golem, pretty much any tank. It's also super hard to counter because with the tank in front of the Balloon just does not get touched by any of the troops. And moving on to my third point, if the Balloon does get touched by any troops, its death damage will not only damage the tower, but destroy all those troops, like minions, minion hordes, skeleton army, archers, princesses, pretty much anything that's a little bit squishy will absolutely destroy. And if you do get the Balloon to the tower, every single hit does so much damage to the tower. It can completely destroy a tower if left unalone, and it's just amazing. And the final point is not known by a lot of people, but I've actually used the Balloon on defense. It's also a decent defensive card, because if, say, they have a minion horde coming to your tower, you can just put the Balloon in front of it, it drops, and then the bomb destroys all the minions for an equal elixir trade. Coming at number 9, we have the Arrow. So this card has not gotten a lot of love lately, but since the new Zap Bait deck meta has come into it, the Arrows have actually gotten a lot better. So first of all, it can completely destroy Zap Bait decks, and I think it's better than Zap for a few reasons. One, it does more damage and has a higher radius, which means it's harder to miss the arrows. Also, with the new buff to the arrow's deployment speed, I think it can be used a lot more and a lot more effective due to the new meta changes. And finally, the reason why it's better than Zap is because it can kill minions and a minion horde, and it also kills goblins from a goblin barrel, which is huge because it doesn't matter what health the troop has, as long as it's on the tower, it's going to do the same amount of damage. So even if you zap a minion horde, it's still going to get a ton of damage, and for only one more elixir, I think that's why it deserves to be on the number 9 spot. Coming in at number 8, we have the infamous Elite Barbarian. So the reason I did not put them any higher is because they are fairly easy to counter, plus they got a little bit of a nerf in the previous update. So first of all, they have super high damage per second. If you leave them on the tower alone, they'll absolutely shred it within 10 seconds, and that's why they're super good. Also, due to their high movement speed, they're very hard to counter. But there is a little drawback, is if the opponent, say, has a bomb tower or an ice golem to bait them, or even just a skeleton army, they'll be able to counter your Elite Barbarians for a positive elixir trade. But also the Elite Barbarians have great defensive capabilities because they can shred tanks like golems and giants, and they can also counter Hog Riders and any troops on the ground. So that's why the Elite Barbarians come in the number 8 spot. Coming in at number 7, we have the classic Hog Rider. So the Hog Rider has been in the meta ever since it came out, and here are the reasons why. So first of all, it's always been a solid card, and it's just super annoying to defend, especially with the Hog cycle decks. You can just keep putting Hog after Hog after Hog, forcing them to play defense and not be able to build up their pushes. Also, it cannot be left unattended on defense due to the fact that it has very high damage. And overall, it's just a super solid card, and that's why the Hog Rider gets the number 7 spot. Coming in at number 6, we have the Minions. So this might be a little bit of a surprise to you guys, but I think the Minions are actually a super solid card in the game. And here's why. Well, first of all, the Minions are very cheap, only 3 elixir, and they can counter tons of troops like Balloons and Lava Hounds and Hog Riders, and pick off troops such as Bowlers, and even Electro Wizards and Musketeers, which is why they're very good on defense. Also, they're a great air distraction, so they can take out Inferno Dragons, other minions coming to you, distract Baby Dragons and Balloons, which is why they're super good in the air. They also have high damage per second, or DPS, so if you put them behind a mini tank or a larger tank, you cannot leave them unattended because they will absolutely shred your tower. If they are left unattended, they will do over 500 damage alone without any tanks. And they're also just really good in any deck because they're versatile and cheap, and that's why Minions get the number 6 spot. Coming in at number 5, we have the Meta Minion. Just kidding, the Mega Minion, but pretty much it's the Meta Minion. Ever since it came out, it's been in almost every single deck, and it's just a super solid card. So first of all, as I said, it fits into any deck. It's just so versatile because it's cheap air and ground damage. Also, it has high DPS, which means it can pick off tanks on the ground like giants, hog riders, especially bowlers. It absolutely destroys bowlers, lumberjacks, pretty much anything on the ground. Also, it's really good for taking out air troops too. It can take out lava hounds, other minions, and baby dragons also. And finally, the reason why I love it more than the minions, this is the only reason, is because it cannot be zapped, arrowed, or fireballed, which is why it deserves the number 5 spot. Coming in at number 4, we have a brand new card, the Lava Hound. So it's not completely brand new, but not many people have been using it until very recently. So the Lava Hound is one of the most used cards I've seen. Pretty much every other deck is a Lava Hound balloon deck, and that is because the Lava Hound is super strong right now. So first of all, it's a super strong tank because it's in the air, so it's much harder to defend against than a golem on the ground. Also, it's super hard to counter Lava Hound decks in general because you can create amazing synergies between cards such as balloons and Mega Minions. So my favorite deck personally uses a Lava Hound as the main tank in the deck. It's a Lava Hound, balloon, minions, and Mega Minion deck because it has half the cards at least in the air, which means they have to have half the cards in their air, and none of those troops are very easy to counter in the first place, and that is why the Lava Hound gets the number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3 is the Skeleton Army. So this card, after the update, when it went to 3 elixir instead of 4, it just jumped up in usage and is used in almost every single deck I've seen. So here are the reasons why. So first of all, it's an amazing counter. It can completely and 100% counter Hog Rider without any damage. It can counter elite Barbarians. It can counter high health tanks like Golems, Giants, and pretty much anything else on the ground. It's also a great distraction for princes. You can pull princes by putting them kind of in the middle, a little off center, and they'll just follow them around the entire map. And one more reason is it pretty much fits into any deck at all. It's just super cheap. For 3 elixir, you get an amazing defensive card, and that is why I think the Skeleton Army deserves the number 3 spot. Coming in at the number 2 spot is the Log. So this card obviously deserves to be on this list in the first place, but it's one of my personal favorite cards, and here's why. First of all, 2 elixir. It is so inexpensive. It can get so many positive elixir trades. So first of all, as I said, it's super cheap, and it's a great defensive card. Not only can it counter Zap 8 decks, which are one of the most commonly used decks, it can counter pretty much any troop in the game because of its knockback potential, which means if there's a P.E.K.K.A. that's going to get to your tower, you can lock it back and make it focus on another card. You can also get so many positive elixir trades, as I said, on skeleton armies, goblin gangs, princesses, goblin barrels, pretty much more than I can count and list, which is why I think it deserves this number 2 spot. And one more thing is it can fit into pretty much any deck. I've used it in a Lava Hound deck, I've used it in a Hog Rider cycle deck, I've used it in a giant balloon deck. You can literally find a way to put it into literally every single deck, and that's why the Log deserves the very high number 2 spot. Okay, here we go. We're at the top spot, number 1, and that goes to the legendary Electro Wizard. So this might be a little bit of a surprise for you guys, but the Electro Wizard is my favorite card in the game for a couple of reasons, which I will list. So first of all, it's an all-around good card. It's good on defense, good on offense, and literally fits into any deck just like the Log. The reasons why is that you can stun when dropped, and it does damage like a zap, which means if a skeleton army or a goblin gang or a goblin barrel is coming to you, you can drop it and counter that 100% without taking any damage on the Electro Wizard. Also, every single attack does stun, which means not only can it kill troops and stun them at the same time, it can also reset the Sparky, which means the Sparky gets countered 100%, so 1 card for positive elixir trade. It can also reset the Inferno Tower and the Inferno Dragon, which means if you put it in a deck with a tank, which pretty much means a Golem deck or a Lava Hound deck, they're going to have no counters to take out your high DPS and high health tanks because the Inferno Dragon and the Inferno Tower can get reset. And just the synergy between the Electro Wizard and almost any card in the game works really well, and you cannot leave it alone because it does over 1,000 damage to a tower if left alone. And that is why the Electro Wizard deserves the number 1 spot. Okay, and that concludes the top 10 list. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you want any more top 10 lists, please tell me in the comments down below and tell me what type of list, like top 10 worst cards or top 10 cards that should be implemented into the game. And that pretty much wraps us up. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button and also subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you all in the next video.